Pharmaceutical companies are already working literally around the clock on the development of therapeutics that will be medicines that can bring relief.
What's actually happening is that our own government has launched a chemical, or I should say biological weapons attack on China and Iran, and target number 3 is the United States, targeted for a plethora of reasons, probably the biggest of which is power grab, because they've essentially declared martial law, medical martial law, and the law that's been invoked it's all-encompassing, and it gives the president carte blanche completely. And it's very, very. 1984 wouldn't do it justice. This is very scary because it's not just cameras that are pointed at you now, like Orwell talked about in 1984, but now we've got devices in our homes and on our persons that track not only every move we make and everywhere we go, but every thought we have, everything we buy, everything we're interested in, how long we're interested in it for each day. They track our movements, so anywhere I go, Google Maps has got me down to the second, how long I go, exactly where I'm going, and exactly for how long. They have more control they have more understanding of the way we think than we do, and I think that's literally true. Because these systems that they're using to profile us, psychologically profile us and figure out what our deterministic leanings will be. In other words, given a set of circumstances, they can predict what your behavior will be or what your reaction will be. Very accurately, because they have enough information to psychologically profile us to very alarming detail. They called it, I love this phrase though, I hate it, algorithmic determinism. So these algorithms are determining, knowing what we will do ahead of how, and then they're, in cases like Cambridge Analytica or anything else that's trying to mold our behavior, it's being used in a way that they touch on people's fears. So if somebody's afraid of something and they want to vote one way, then they feed them all this information that makes them lean towards that way via fear. And they seek out the most neurotic amongst us. So there's that. Now, that's part of the control. It's a very small part. Now that they have martial law, and they're merging private business with government, which is fascist. In fact, everything about what they're doing right now is fascist. Controlling media completely. Controlling media completely is fascist. And some people don't believe that they control the media completely. When's the last time you saw anything critical of the military on the news? There's control. So we got those elements in check, but the ugliest thing about all this is that they did this to us to sell us vaccine. Not that alone, probably the power was the bigger deal, but they are frightening us into paying for a vaccine. They're killing people to do it. We're talking about $1 trillion worth of money here. You know, the vaccines are, they'll sell them worldwide because the whole world's in lockdown right now. What they've actually done is unleashed a virus on the entire world population that they probably already have the vaccine for. Because look at how President Trump has acted. A supposed germaphobe has now been exposed to the virus multiple times and was completely indifferent to testing. In fact, reporters had to hound him about it to even get him to do a test. So then he finally did it, begrudgingly, in the middle of the night. So there's a long list. There's probably a bunch that I don't know about of things that are tied in with this whole thing that they're making a lot of money on. This is our 9/11. This is another 9/11. This is another 9/11. This one is a germ thing, and of course we're denying attacking anybody, but it showed up right in the middle of Iran and right in China, and it's a weaponized virus. You know, I mean, the author of the Chemical and Biological Weapons Act for the United States says it is absolutely a weaponized virus. I'd take his word over most. And he wasn't even iffy or anything about it. His take also was he believed that it just leaked out of the Wuhan laboratory, and I'm not saying that it didn't, but I lean more towards believing that it was very intentionally placed, because where it was placed in Iran is just, none of the countries around had it at the time where it was planted there. Just, you know, what are the chances? Just the two main places in the world that the United States can't stand. It's pretty obvious, but anyway, so that's what's happening, and nobody's covering it that way. It's just we're all victims, we're all in this together. But I remember hearing something from, I think it was Pence, and it reminded me of when George W. Bush said, "Let us not go upon conspiracy theories." It was something along those lines. It was like, let's not talk about what could possibly be nefarious about this from our own country, as disturbing as that is. I think it should always be talked about when there's somebody who stands to benefit from something like this. And anybody who comes up with a vaccine right now, everybody in the world is going to want it, and I mean that literally. So we're talking, I don't know how many $1 trillion that is, but that's one of the biggest paydays any company's ever had. But of course it's pharma, so surprise, surprise. The flu vaccines alone are massive income. You know, what a scam. I'm convinced that they placed some of these viruses in places to create hysteria and sell vaccines. Why wouldn't they, if it's worth that much money? In Korea, they test somewhere in the area of 2,000 people a day for COVID-19 or coronavirus, novel. So they run about 2,000 tests. I'm sorry, 20,000 tests per day. That way they were able to find the trajectory of where things were going, find out who was exposed, and they were able to contain it fairly well, all things considered. But in the United States, to this day, we have not tested a total of 20,000. And they act like it's a bunch of bumbling, oops, we didn't know, they made the tests wrong, and it's thing after thing after thing. And if you look at the way that they handled 9/11, it was the same sort of thing. It was like, oh, how could we have known that they were going to fly something into the Twin Towers? Because intelligence told you? There was just thing after thing, and they just acted like, I didn't know. Come on. So this is the same sort of play that they're playing. We messed up, or no, they're not even saying they messed up, but we couldn't get them. We're trying to roll it out now. We'll have it out tomorrow. These delivery sites, we're going to go through Google. It's just like, come on. It's really obvious that it's an intentional effort to let the disease spread. Because if the disease spreads more, then it will cause more fear as it breaks out more, and there'll be way more acceptance for and customers for vaccine. Like I said, it's not the only thing that they're doing. There's a whole bunch of little pieces that in my opinion, of course, they put all this together, and it's a big plan, and just part of its control, part of its money, part of its objectives, by harming China and Iran. It's a plethora of things that they benefit from this virus, and all the fingers are pointing back to the United States for where this originated. People are coming just barely short of saying that we attacked anybody, except for there's a doctor, I believe it's a doctor, in Iraq who said that he's found these packets and hats that were given to some 20-something guys, baseball hats, that when the sweat got in, the virus got into. He said it was built into these hats. That's what he's saying. I don't think he can prove it, but I'm not sure why a doctor in Iraq would come forward and so adamantly claiming that this happened. It holds some weight, in my opinion. All evidence seems to add up to the United States being the perpetrator, or at very least, it was their intention to do this, and then it was an accident that happened before they were able to pull the trigger, so they jumped on all these other, but I don't think so, because the pharmaceutical companies all showed up for an executive meeting days after, this thing started. Well, company executives don't just up and jump and go somewhere. Usually they have an itinerary, they have plans. Now, I could be wrong on that. But it seems like everything is so well coordinated. Everybody's in the exact place where they should be to sell a virus vaccine. And the way the administration praises Trump is really, really twisted. Constantly saying our great president, and from all the fantastic action of our president. It's the weirdest thing. I mean, picture, if you will, Barack Obama standing there looking over the shoulder of his vice president is talking, while the vice president singing his praises while he's standing there.
This day should be an inspiration to every American. Because thanks to your leadership from early on, throughout this process, Mr. President, you put the health of America first. Mr. President, you have forged a seamless partnership, but it's all a result of you tasking us with bringing together. And together, as you've said many times, together we'll get through this.
This is really strange. He's been strange all along, but it's obvious that most of the people up at that podium have either gotten specific direction where they should stand, how they should talk, what they should say, down to like a syllable almost. If you just watch one of those conferences. Just watch how the people who speak when he's standing there, what kinds of things they say about him, and how they paint things. It's very manufactured. It's very produced. And this stuff is, a lot of it's theater, which is really disturbing considering what it's theater about. Anyway, take care.